Thanks for watching France 24 and welcome to the business interview. My name is Marcus Carlson. This week we're turning our attention to the European debt crisis. For months the focus has been on Greece and its galloping debts, but now Italy has become the newest flashpoint. Markets have tumbled on concerns that Italy won't be able to pay back its debts. At the moment they amount to 1.9 trillion euro, and that makes Italy the world's third most indebted country after the United States and Japan. How concerned should we be? To help us answer that question, I'm joined here by Philippe Darvissinet. He's the global chief economist over at BNP Paribas. Welcome to France 24.
Hello.
Let's start with that simple but yet so complicated question. How worried should we be about Italy at this stage?
It depends on politicians. What had we seen about Italy? We are there a country which, as you said, has a very high level of debt in the province of 120% of the GDP. Not that different when compared with 10 years ago. So this is no news. It has been said also Italy has had a weak rate of growth, which is true, but it has been unfortunately true for a long time, so it's not something new that happened. Italy didn't do anything when it comes to boosting the activity during the recession. There was a slight increase in the deficit, which was entirely due to the fact that with the recession, there were less government revenues. That's it. No program to boost expenditure or to cut taxes. So you could say Italy is not in the same basket as Greece, for instance. What happened basically is the market became concerned suddenly because you had this dispute inside the government.
You had Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi criticizing Giulia Tremonti, the finance minister.
Yeah, and at a very bad moment, I should say, for two reasons. One is there was an austerity or an adjustment program, wherever, aimed at cutting the deficit even more, with a target to balance in a few years from now, and that was to be passed very soon. Secondly, Tremonti is somebody who is very respected in the European sphere, I could say. He has ideas regarding how to solve a sovereign debt crisis, etc. What if this guy becomes out of a landscape suddenly? So Berlusconi had to step back, and this program had been presented to the Senate and was adopted yesterday. Now it is at the lower chamber and should be adopted. So the problem is this is a precedent, and the increase in the yields that we have seen following this, which was like this, I mean, vertical, close to Spain. Wow.
Speaking of Giulia Tremonti, we got a soundbite from him speaking about the need of the austerity plan that the government now wants to implement. Let's take a listen.
Without balancing the books, the public debt, a monster that comes from our past, will devour our future and the future of our children. The country is watching us. They are looking at the government, the majority and the opposition, who do differ but today here are not divided. And for this, I am proud to be here with all of you today.
All right, we heard Giulia Tremonti there referring to public debt as a monster. Will the austerity plan be enough to stave off this monster?
I mean, it will take years, but the thing is to give a sign that you have reached a peak and the thing is trending down. You cannot cut from 120 down to 60 within 2 or 3 years. It will take much longer, but it has been done in the past in countries like Belgium or, guess what, Ireland.
We have seen the spread for Italy and Greece come up in comparison to the bond yield of Germany. What do you think the effect is of that borrowing costs for Italy are coming up? They're approaching 6% at this stage. What is the effect?
Well, the problem is this increase in spread has been a lesson and probably triggered more unity in the government. The market have shown, be serious, stop disputing between yourself otherwise, as you said, 6, and you can wonder if the thing is sustainable anymore.
Where's the breaking point for Italy, do you think?
Well, the breaking point depends on growth, because the dynamic of a debt, you have 3 elements. Basically, you have what you inherit. Is it big? Is it small? You have the interest rate, and you have growth. The higher the growth, the more important the interest rate you can digest. With growth being limited in Italy in the short term, you need a rate of interest which is below 5% would be something nice, and that's what the case before this crisis happened.
Now, we've seen new downgrades for the Eurozone this week. Moody's downgraded Ireland, for instance, and Fitch Ratings downgraded Greece to CCC, which is further into junk territory. What does that mean for the Eurozone?
Well, for the Eurozone itself, you can see it two ways. On the one hand, you can say this is a bit more pressure exerted on politicians so that they at last decide something which makes sense to solve not the problem of Greece, of Portugal or whatever, but to solve this problem, which has been with us for nearly 2 years now. So it exerts a pressure. Now you can also criticize a bit the rating agencies. I'm not an extreme critic of the agencies. I mean, they are showing things that exist in the sense that when you look at what they said regarding Portugal, they say, okay, we downgrade because they might need another program. Okay? If the consequence of such a declaration is to increase the spread, probably they will need another program. So it's a kind of self-fulfilling kind of thing, and that might be dangerous.
But the European Commission, of course, has come out hard against these downgrades. Are you among those? Do you agree with the European Commission that this was the last thing and the worst possible timing of these downgrades?
Yes, it's not the first time that it is the worst possible timing, but I mean, they are not paid to please the politician. Once again, you can criticize the rating agencies, but on the other hand, you have to understand their logic. They are not paid by the European Commission to shut up.
What about Greece at this stage? How imminent is a default, or is a default imminent? Is it unavoidable at this stage?
Well, I think everything will be done in order to avoid it, including we will all have to pay. That's it. Because a default would be extremely...
Eurozone taxpayers.
Yeah, taxpayers, investors, etc. Because the burden will probably be shared one way or another. Because if you have an incentive, if the Greeks are despaired and say, well, okay, let's quit that zone, they automatically default because they have a currency which is not the euro, and the level of their debt, when denominated in euro, is still denominated in euro. You have a currency that devalues by 100% vis-à-vis euro. The weight of the debt is the double. They cannot stand it anymore. So they lose. We lose, everybody lose, much more than if we set up something to help them. The cost would be much higher. So,
now, throughout this interview, you've been calling for action from Eurozone leaders. There is now talk of emergency negotiations in the week to come or so. What do you want Eurozone leaders to do at this stage? What can they do to stem the flow?
You know, it's very simple. Before the euro was launched, we all knew that there was a need in order to make that zone viable with a unique currency, but split fiscal policies. We need more coordination, more integration of this fiscal policy. That's what Mr. Tremonti has asked for. That's what Mr. Juncker has asked for. That's what ECB is quite friendly to that idea, and in kind of more fiscal integration. It could be very difficult to set up a central budget because the opinions are not ready for that, but you need something like a common bond, something like that. It's the only way is to mutualize part of the debt of these different countries. Otherwise, we will have repeatedly problems. The thing is big. You need to have a big answer.
But there is, of course, a huge political problem. Politicians, they're not likely to go for that kind of idea, to pool fiscal policies, are they?
I mean, pooling fiscal policy, if it means you have a common budget, I don't think, as you say, the climate is there. I mean, it's not there. Having a common, I should say, agency, administration that issues debt on behalf of different governments with a certain limit would make sense. Now, when
a kind of a halfway house.
Yeah, we could say kind of federalism by the back door, whatever you call it. The problem is you have had politicians bashing Europe for years. So you don't need I mean, it's obvious that when you have heard this kind of talk for years, suddenly you say, but Europe is not that bad. I mean, how can you believe it? If they don't buy, the opinion is probably not there. I mean, in some countries at least. And second, say, well, this means a loss of sovereignty. It's already lost, because what happens to their public finance, the cost of interest payments, etc., it depends on rating agencies, it depends on the perception of the market. So the markets have the power, not the government anymore. They have already lost their sovereignty. So it's probably better to lose the sovereignty for something positive than to be the victim of the expectations of a market. I mean, this kind of imitation, herd behavior, all this sort of thing.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to ask you a quick question. Do you think that there is a real problem here, or there is a real risk that the Eurozone could actually break apart?
No, I think everything will be done to avoid that because of the cost. The thing would be dramatic. It's like you leave even one country. That's why Greece is. We don't know the consequences, so we have an idea. Lehman was something small. Lehman Brothers in 2008. It's small, it shouldn't have consequences. We have seen what has followed. So the fear is a kind of Lehman moment if you leave the door open to this thing.
The fear of contagion.
Yeah.
All right, Philippe Darvissinet from BNP Paribas, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. And with that, we're going to wrap up the programme. Thanks for watching France 24.